What's up guys, it's your girl Karishma, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be talking about the giants of the world. And no, I'm not talking about the Giants, the baseball team that kept coming up when I first tried to research this on Google. So grab your drinks, your snacks, your blankets, cozy up, turn out the lights, and let's get into this video. First, let's talk about the giant footprints that were discovered around the world. There are a ton of them that were discovered everywhere, but today we're only going to talk about 3. The first giant footprint that we're going to talk about was found by a hunter in Swaziland border, South Africa. It measures at 4 feet high, so that means whoever owned this footprint would have measured at 27 feet tall. I mean, just look at the picture of the footprint with the guy standing next to it. He's practically the whole size of the footprint. I mean, if there was a giant with that footprint connected to it today, he would be a goner. So the footprint is over 200 million years old to 3 billion years old. Some locals say it's where special spiritual healing powers reside, and some locals say that this giant footprint is connected to the giant aliens that once roamed this earth. The next giant footprint that we're going to talk about is in Pingwaya, China. The giant footprint is measured at 22 inches long, 8 inches wide, and 1 inch thick. Now, to give you a little visual here, the average foot of a man is 7 inches, and the foot that was found is 22 inches. So, it was discovered not too long ago. It was discovered back in 2016 by some photographers. So there is very little information on this giant foot. And then the last giant foot we're going to talk about that was found, I can't seem to find where this location of this giant foot was found. I see quite a few people taking pictures in front of it, but there's no location attached to it or tagged into it or said where it could be. Just random people in front of this giant foot. But yes, like I said, there are a ton of giant footprints that were discovered around the world. So if you yourself have seen and discovered a giant footprint, comment down below. Now my next question is, who were these giant steps made for? I've seen this photo all over the internet with the question, who were these giant steps made for? And at first I didn't think anything of it until I looked closer to the photo and I realized how tiny the people were compared to the steps. And then I was like, yeah, who were these steps made for? Now, I saw a few comments down below in the multiple videos that each person made, and there were quite a few people that said these were actually steps that were created long ago. This is how they grew a garden and somehow controlled the light. Creating these steps helped control the light for the plants and created their garden. So I did see quite a few comments on that. And if it isn't for the plants or for the garden, why else would they make such large steps? Like, that's a lot of work. I mean, if you look at the picture of how tiny everybody is, you just imagine how long that must have taken them to build that. Or did they not build it? Did somebody else or something huge build it? Next are the giant hexagon rocks. Now, some believe that it was built by a giant named Matthieu. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Some people believe that it was built by this giant to fight another giant. But in actuality, they were actually formed 60 million years ago by volcanic activity. Or were they? They look so man-made. That's really interesting to see that volcanoes can form that so perfectly. Or were they formed by volcanoes? There are even examples of artwork that could possibly represent giants. Now, one of the reasons they possibly made some of the figures in the drawings much taller than the other people in the drawings was because they wanted to make them look like a leader or someone who was very important. So by making them taller, this showed that this person at that time was a very important leader of some sort. And then the other theory is that it was actually representing an adult and a child. So there are those two possibilities. So it's up to you to decide which one you think it is. Now let's talk about the mummies that were found and what their heights were. There was a pharaoh believed to either be 14 foot high or 8 foot high. Either way, really tall, but also just like a huge difference between 8 foot and 14 foot. And I'll tell you the reason why they can't decide which one it is. It says that the pharaoh was 5 cubits and 3 palms high. So when they did the calculations, he came out as 8 foot high. But when they did the calculations using the royal cubit, he came out as 14 foot high. They said that he was a royal, so using the royal cubit to do the calculations could be considered, but they just said that 14 foot high just seemed not normal, and that 8 foot seemed more of a normal height, so they went with that answer. But what do you think? I think it's 4 foot high because the royal cubit measurements does sound like something that was something you would use because he was a royal. So just because it doesn't seem normal to you doesn't mean that it's impossible. Okay. Then there was a mummy finger found. I don't know why I said it like that. But then there was a mummy finger found by a graveyard robber. Supposedly, this guy told a bar owner that this mummy finger was found 150 years ago and was kept in the family all these years. And the guy wanted to examine the finger and get some x-rays to confirm if this was a real finger. 19 years later, the bar owner went to Egypt to go visit the guy of the owner of the mummified finger. But when he got to Egypt, he was nowhere to be found by locals or friends or family members. Nobody. He completely disappeared, which probably was a good thing, because why was the bar owner going to visit this guy in Egypt? I mean, were they friends? Did they eventually get to know each other? Like, did they become friends, or did he just randomly just somehow found out where he lived, when they were talking, and then 19 years later just randomly went to go visit him in Egypt? So I don't know, maybe it was a good thing that he just disappeared and didn't tell anybody where he went. Or did he disappear in a not so good way? The measurement of the finger is 14 inches, so the person who would have owned this finger would have been 16 feet tall. And it was believed to be a real mummified finger based on the x-ray photos, as you can observe and see. Oh, that is a long finger. And there were gigantic coffins discovered in Egypt, some built as high as 9 feet. The theory is, though, that the reasons why these coffins were built so high was not because of the humans inside there were so tall, but because they wanted to build the coffins as high as they could so that they could prove to the gods that they were royal. And then a mummy was discovered in San Diego in the early 1800s, I believe. And at first the experts measured the mummy at 9 foot. And was later put on display for everybody to observe. Years later, the Smithsonian heard about the mummy and called to request to buy it. They offered to pay the owner $500 for the mummy, which in today's time would be $14,000. They wanted to test the mummy and see if it really was a real mummy or if it was fake. So as soon as they got a hold of the mummy and they tested it, they immediately dismissed it and said it was a hoax, and the mummy was never to be seen again. So some believe that the Smithsonian lied and used it as a cover-up, because it was very odd that they paid so much money to have this mummy shipped to them, for them to test it, and for them to immediately go, it's a hoax. For them to immediately go, it's a hoax, and to immediately take the mummy back down and to have it completely disappear and to never be seen again. Some people believe that giants did roam the earth and lived with mammoths and saber-toothed tigers. They say that these giants were viewed as gods and even sometimes feared, obviously. Supposedly there were war against these giants, and later farmers would discover fields of giant bones and giant weapons. So it is up to you to decide whether or not you think that these stories are true. Do you think that the footprints are true? Do you think that the mummy that was discovered in San Diego was really true? Do you think the Smithsonian covered it up? Leave your comments down below and tell me your thoughts, what you think. Is it false? Is it true? What are your theories on everything? But that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys next time.